Well, the three goalkeepers that we expected, Adrian, we have Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope and Aaron Ramsdale. In defence, Trent Alexander-Arnold does make it. Conor, Coady, Eric Dier, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker and Ben White. Midfielders, Jude Bellingham, Conor Gallagher, Jordan Henderson, Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. And then the forwards, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, James Maddison, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling and, as we expected, Callum Wilson. So that 26th player that we were waiting for when I was doing my squad earlier on, looks like it was Conor Gallagher who made a late entry.
Let me just read that 26 again, and Leanne, I'll get your thoughts on it. Pickford, Pope and Ramsdale, I think you could predict the three goalkeepers. Trent Alexander-Arnold is in, Conor, Coady, Eric Dier makes it, Harry Maguire is in, of course, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker, although he hasn't played since the start of October, and Ben White of Arsenal makes it. Midfielders, Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson, Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips is in, Declan Rice and Conor Gallagher makes it as well. And up front, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, James Maddison makes the England squad. He is in. Marcus Rashford is in. Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling, Callum Wilson. So there's no Jared Bowen, no Tammy Abraham, no Ivan Toney, no James Ward-Prowse, no Fikayo Tomori as well. Wow. Leanne Sanderson, your immediate reaction to that England squad?
Well, I mean, I mentioned Conor Gallagher, didn't I, before, as an outsider, along with Harvey Elliott, but I didn't expect him to necessarily get selected. I'm happy with James Maddison. I'm not happy that Ivan Toney's not in the squad. I feel like he should have been. But, you know, a lot of people are saying that Rashford deserves his spot. I disagree with that. But at the end of the day, this is now, the suspense is finally over. We've got the squad and we have to get behind the team, because I feel like, you know, during the Euros, I deliberated this player should play, that player should play. I'm happy Maddison is in the squad. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I feel like Callum Wilson, I mean, what a story, eh?
Yeah, it is a great story from his point of view. And listen, people will have views on those who have been left out and those who have been included. Danny Mills is with us from St George's Park as well. And James Maddison, Danny, does make it. I feel like this is a breakthrough in terms of how Gareth Southgate views the England squad. We'll get to Danny in a second. But I think that James Maddison, Leanne, this is a breakthrough. He's more positive about England going forward. If he's picking a player like James Maddison, his defensive mindset has weakened a little bit and he's being more positive, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I think obviously James Maddison, everyone's been talking about him of late. He had that injury last year, but I'm delighted he's in the squad. I feel like it would have been one of those things that everybody would have been talking about. There's still going to be people that are going to not be happy with the squad. We'll obviously deliberate and talk about, and people phone in and give their opinions. But like I said, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And Callum Wilson, remember last week he did that interview, and I feel like he actually pushed himself into the reckoning of being selected, because whoever set that interview up, he deserved to be there. Whoever set that interview up is genius, because I don't think anybody was really talking about him being in this squad. And do you remember what he said, Adrian? He said, I'd fancy myself within this squad. And then after that, everybody's like, Callum Wilson. I know the Newcastle fans think highly of him. My only question with Callum Wilson, can he stay injury-free? I think that's the only question mark. But can he score goals? Can he come alive when it really matters? Absolutely. But I don't want to be negative, because I'm happy James Maddison is in there. But for me, I'd have chosen Ivan Toney. OK, we can get Danny Mills now live from St George's Park. Your reaction to the England squad?
No huge surprises, Adrian. If we're honest, obviously,
James Maddison in
coming out.
James Maddison's a huge surprise, isn't he? He's barely been looked at.
Well, what did I say 10, 15 minutes ago? 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in. I wouldn't be surprised if he was out. There are arguments for both cases. The rest of it, Callum Wilson coming in, you've still got to fill it with 26. It was probably Wilson or Toney. Just listening to Leanne, you know, saying which way it could go. I don't think there's too many huge arguments, you know. Players that have been left out. Tammy Abraham, not in fantastic form at the moment. Tomori, I don't see enough of him, if I'm honest. Toney, not been involved before, you know, doing okay. Obviously, Gareth saw him in the squad, maybe didn't like what he saw. That's it. I think that the rest of the squad pretty much picks itself with all the injuries.
The fact that James Maddison is in, and I appreciate what you're saying in terms of 50-50 or whatever, but does that mean there's a different mindset from Gareth Southgate? He's picked an out-and-out flair player, number 10, creative player. So are we going to be less defensive now, do you think?
He's still going to have to play, Adrian. At what point does he play in games? You've got Grealish, Foden, in there that can do that job as well. You've got Bukayo Saka that can play a wide area drop in. Raheem Sterling's played in that sort of that 10 false 9 position at times as well. He's an option. Definitely, yes, he's in good form. We know that. He's now going to have to perform in training, work incredibly hard and earn a place, probably coming off the bench, because I don't think anybody expects him to start, especially in those early games. If he gets a chance, he's got to take it and perform like he's been playing for Leicester.
And in terms of Callum Wilson up front, there were a few reservations, Danny, about his fitness levels. He has had an injury already this season. There's a history of injuries with him. Is that a worry?
Not particularly. You're not expecting him to play 7 games, are you? During the World Cup. We're all hoping and praying that Harry Kane stays fit and plays the majority of all the games, and I think that will be the case. If you can bring Harry Kane off and rest him, giving someone else an option, or if you're chasing a game, you're probably going to get maybe 30 minutes. When you look at most tournaments and look at what the women did during the Euros, you had finishers coming off the bench, you had substitutes coming on in the last 30 minutes of games. So the injury side of it, he will be well managed during that time. He'll actually get a little bit more rest than he would do if he was playing at Newcastle week in, week out. So I don't see that as a problem for Callum Wilson.
Yeah, that's an interesting point of view, actually. On Trent Alexander-Arnold, let's have a look at some of the defenders. Leanne, first of all. Trent Alexander-Arnold is in. Eric Dier is in. Ben White is in. Do any of those surprise you, and are they likely to get game time?
I mean, I'm surprised about Eric Dier. He wasn't in my squad, but I'm delighted that Trent's in because I'm a big fan of his. I think going forward, I think he's brilliant. But it will be yet to be determined because Gareth Southgate, he's not really having him, is he? Let's be honest, doesn't put him in the squad, puts him in the stand. But I mean, injuries now to Chilwell and Reece James.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp hasn't been having him particularly either, Leanne, has he, this season? Jurgen Klopp has left him out quite a little bit. And it's interesting, I've been saying for some time, we know that he can't, defensively, he's frail at times. Gary Neville has given him a little bit of stick, Sam Allardyce. You can't afford to have bad defenders playing at full-back in a tournament.
You can't afford to have bad players playing in general, Danny. I mean, you can say you can't afford to have bad players at full-back, but Harry Maguire's going to start fringing and he's not been good.
But it's a huge weakness, but there's no one else in those positions. That's the problem. Right,
you're saying you're not having Tomori based upon you not
Trippier.
being able to see him enough. That's not really a valid reason to not pick a player. I mean, Tomori was brilliant when he went over to Milan. Yes, he's not been great of late, but I think he should have been in the squad based upon form. Because if we're saying, you're saying as well about Maddison.
Smalling's been fantastic at Roma. No one's given him a shout. Everyone's completely ignored
Danny,
him.
You know how these things go,
I would
right?
argue. Well, that's the same argument. So he's not in. Tomori's not in. I would argue that James Tarkowski's been fantastic for Everton this season. As a backup centre half, somebody that's solid, plays on the left hand side. Why I would put Tarkowski in ahead of Tomori at the moment. He's been involved before. He's been playing well this season. He's got a fantastic partnership with Conor Coady. You're looking at backup players. These are not necessarily players that are going to start. It's who can come in and who's going to be good around the training ground just as much as anything else.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think when you're away for a month, and you know all about this, both of you, you've been to tournaments with England before, you have to have good tourists. If there's somebody who isn't a good tourist who's going to be miserable when they're not playing, you know this. It's going to bring down, and I appreciate they've got to be good players as well. I want to ask a very quick one about Conor Gallagher, get your initial views on it, because I think that's the one that's really taken me by surprise. Conor Gallagher in there. No offence to him, he was brilliant at Crystal Palace, got a chance in the England squad, and then at Chelsea it's not quite been as emphatic as it was at Palace last season. Danny, first of all, Conor Gallagher, can you understand the reasoning behind him being in there?
Little bit of a surprise, you have to say, but I think again he's one of those midfield players. He's done well. He's shown Gareth what he can do. He's got energy, and again he offers something different, a little bit like James Maddison. You've got a squad of 26. You've got to fill it. Who else would you put in? Would you rather have James Ward-Prowse in instead of Gallagher? No is the answer for me. Gallagher offers you something different. Again, you're looking at finishers. You're looking at people coming off the bench to make a difference. And Conor Gallagher makes a much better difference coming off the bench than someone like James Ward-Prowse.
Listen, we'll take your calls on this. 03717 223344. You now know the England squad that Gareth Southgate has picked. Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope, Aaron Ramsdale, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Conor, Coady, Eric Dier, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker, Ben White, Jude Bellingham, Conor Gallagher, Jordan Henderson, Mason Mount, Kalvin Phillips, Declan Rice, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, James Maddison, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling and Callum Wilson. So no Ivan Toney, no Ward-Prowse, no Abraham and no Tomori.